course, and the uh, screenshot was of Coltrane's famous album Love Supreme. It came out around the time I was graduating from college, and 1971, late 60s, early 70s, and great album. Took me like 30 years to actually uh, start to understand the music there and to get my ears into it. Coltrane it takes a while, especially the later Coltrane. We weren't hearing the later Coltrane, we were hearing like from his ballads things, which everybody can sort of groove to. Yeah, yeah. So, but I put that on because I stole the title of today's poem from that. Ezra Pound said, uh, poets don't plagiarize, they steal. And if you're a good poet, hopefully you steal from the best sources. And "Love Supreme" is the title of this poem. So I'm just going to dive into it. And I used to uh, didn't when I was doing poetry with junior high kids and even my high school guys, and I was just giving it to them on the ear. Before, I would always give it to them on the ear before I gave them the actual visual of the poem. And it's that way normally for us. Uh, so I would I would tell them just to be totally open to the poem, just to be present, open and available, and they're listening with the ear of the heart to the poem. So I want you to do that. Just be present, open, and available. Don't worry about understanding the poem, or you're not going to have to analyze the poem. I was trying to get them out of all that. I just wanted them to receive the poem on the ear of the heart, and then when we actually talked about it, then I would have them start with whatever single word or image that they recall after hearing a poem a couple times. There'll be still the echo of some line, you see, if it's a good poem. And hopefully today's is worth your time. But so just allow yourself to just take it in and not have to even think about it so much. Just let the words hit the ear of the heart. And and then I'll just flesh it out a little bit. And then we'll have a time to sit with it. And then always on our third segment, just talk 20 minutes roughly, and then 20 minutes of sitting, and then 20 minutes of contemplative conversation in the silence. Then if something may still be echoing there, you know that there's something important in that word or phrase or line for you. Yeah, so let's just let these words hit the ear of your heart. And I was thinking all week about Holy Week coming up. That's sort of the context of this, and especially on Holy Thursday when you read the discourses in the Gospel of John. It's the time on Holy Thursday evening of the beloved community. It's the kind of sort of the fullness of it. Uh, and then it was going to all fall apart the next day, that night and the next day, totally fall apart. And seemed like, just destruction. We're sort of always tying into the previous poem where Merton talked about my ruin is my fortune. And so none of those apostles, maybe Mary Magdalene understood, but none of the apostles understood how this thing could all be totally ruined. And then 50 days later on Pentecost, the fortune, something bigger even than what they had on Holy Thursday night. Yeah, they were just doing it for the first time. We have the advantage of being able to watch that whole thing take place and realize some kind of cycle is going on. Comes to fullness, falls apart, length of time, and then So when Martin Luther King talked about the beloved community, what was he talking about? Well, so that's where we'll start. You can join the beloved community. You can join the beloved community formed by soulful beings who simply consent to begin each and every day by taking the time to plug in to the energy of the divine source. You can join the beloved community formed by soulful beings who simply consent to begin each and every day by taking the time to plug in to the energy of the divine source, by taking the time to drop down into the heart and to simply be present, open, and available. By taking the time to drop down into the heart and to simply be present, open, and available to the formless field of benefaction that powers the unfolding universe. Simply be present, open, and available to the formless field of benefaction that powers the unfolding universe. After that, you can simply go about your daily life doing what needs to be done. But you will also have the amazing grace you need to bear the beams of love to one and all. After that, you can simply go about your daily life doing what needs to be done. But you will also have the amazing grace you need to bear the beams of love to one and all. So let's tease this out a little bit. We're invited. It's not something that happened 2,000 years ago or during civil rights time. You can join the beloved community. Big community. And this is beyond Christianity. It's actually the cosmic Christianity in the sense that it includes not just Christians, but everybody, anybody who simply consents. And the key word there to bring out is this path we're on is, first of all, it's a path of consent. That's an important word. We're consenting to simply begin each and every day by taking the time to plug into the energy of the divine source. That's to take it into the beloved community. If you're a Sufi, you might be plugging in after the sun goes down. There's, everything is sort of a little bit relative, but that idea of you're consenting every day. Most traditions begin it at the beginning of the day. Before the sun's even up. The monks are getting up at 2:30 at Gethsemane to begin their day at 3:15. It's sort of radical. And we're not talking about how much time or anything, but it's more an inner thing that I'm going to begin my day by plugging in to the divine source, by taking time to drop down into the heart and simply be present, open, and available. Get those, that's POA. I love acronyms. If you think of your POA, your power of attorney, well, the Holy Spirit was called the advocate. He was called he was the one who was going to advocate for you, judge advocate. And so the POA is, to be present, because nothing happens if you're not present. That's got to come first. If you're not present, forget it. And then open is just to be just totally like here and open to whatever. And then you're available. You're available. That's really actually asking quite a lot of people. And to whatever, I use the Zen term here, present, open, and available to the formless field of benefaction. Most people don't hear the word benefaction, but it really means the thing that makes good. Bene is good, and faction is the word for making. And in some Zen chants, they talk about the formless field of goodness that keeps bringing goodness into a benefaction. So make yourself present, open, and available to just this grace. And this is the thing that powers the whole unfolding universe. Okay, so you could be a scientist and realize this. You could be an atheist. Doesn't matter. That's part of the idea that it's still a field without form. When Rumi talks about, I'll meet you in the field, we have to, in a way, as you get older, you have to drop this form of they're thinking about God and all the concepts and forms. They got to sort of all fall apart, like Good Friday, everything fell apart. You have to have these forms, sort of rigid forms. Um, if they get in the way, definitely, if they block your heart, they got to go. And that's sort of what happens to people as if you keep showing up. Um, Anything that gets in the way of being present, open, and available to the divine source, it eventually won't last. You'll outlast it. And after you've done that work, my brother dropped in for 3 days, and he doesn't, normally do this kind of work, but he dropped in for 3 days. So he dropped in for the work. I said, we got to meditate before you get the oatmeal. And so he bought that. So, we sat. It was wonderful for him and wonderful for me to be sitting with my brother. And then we had the oatmeal, which was great too, but getting the essentials down. Say, after that, you can simply go about your daily life, doing what needs to be done. But you will have the amazing grace you need to do all that stuff, and also to bear the beams of love, this love supreme that we're sitting with. That was Coltrane's image, the love supreme, that you're present, open, and available to this supreme love. And then you can pass it on. It takes a lot of energy to get to even do what needs to be done, but then to actually be a conveyor, a conduit for this love out to other people. That's big time. I don't know what else you want to do with your life, but you know, uh, and the Amazing Grace, we sing that song. Anytime I hear anybody sing that song, even a bad singer, somebody who's not really that great, I tear up. I'll tear up a little bit. That song really gets to me. It gets to a lot of people. And actually, technically, if you study at least the theology of grace, well, we're being showered 24/7, 365 with what they call ordinary grace. Just the ordinary, just like, the light, the photons from the sun, they don't stop. We turn away from it as the earth, but the sun hasn't stopped at all. Maybe, 2 billion years from now, it'll burn out or implode or whatever. But the sun is constantly radiating this heat and light energy through photons and all this activity. But the earth turns away from it. Seems like the sun goes down and we have night, but it's not stopping. Okay, it's not stopping. And so that's what they call ordinary grace, that just, it's, some deity is not picking, oh yeah, you're worthy of this. Here you go, you have it, but you're not, you're not a Christian, or you're not a Muslim or whatever. Just ordinary grace is available to everybody all the time. But when you do this drop and you're making this extraordinary consent to be present, open, and available to the love of the universe, this formless field of goodness. I mean, the reason we got the word God is because eventually, we've been on the earth about 7 million years, where somebody in German probably said, this is good, and so we got the word, finally God, that there's some basic goodness that that saves your bacon sometimes. That's that kind of friendly grace. There's a fierce grace we've been talking about, which you also need to, but that's in the ordinary form of grace. The mystical grace you get in contemplation, that's the amazing grace. And I mean, of course, you won't feel it. We'll go down for 20 minutes here, and it might just feel like crazy monkey mind, or it might just be a lot of, up and down, thinking about your to-do list, and oh yeah, and then you drop back down. That is what it normally is for me. And I mean, my normal thing doing this now almost 50 years is I don't feel nothing. I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting here, but over time you realize that this is what they're talking about, that this is like stuff, this is like, look, I mean, just look around your room now. You don't see x-rays. You don't see the microwaves, but they're here. We couldn't be talking to one another. Yeah, you don't see the the rays between me and you, but all these things are present here, but our normal eyes can't see them. In just the same way, our consciousness definitely doesn't pick up the mystical, amazing grace that you even have a chance of opening up to. And every time you're present, open, and available, even if it's for a second or two out of 20 minutes, you're opening up to that mystical grace, amazing grace, even though you don't know it. Same. That's the deal. That's the deal. And you know the same way you plant a seed, and you don't know what's going to come up. I mean, it's not that you're planting the seed, and 2 weeks later starts to sprout. It's that kind of deal. This mystical grace. Who knows when it sprouts? But that's the view from the contemplative traditions. Uh, all they talk about that's why the song exists, Amazing Grace. But you can open yourself to it. This is the special thing. We're always sort of doing something else, doing something else. So this is actually the consent to be present, open, and available. That's the power of the attorney, the power of the spirit. When you can consent to do that for 20 minutes, you don't have to do anything else. But be present, open, and available. And something terrific's coming through. And it'll start to give you that extra thing you need when you need it, beyond the normal surface of life. That's the promise of the traditions. And all I can say is I've experienced it. Again, not while I'm sitting, but in life, you know, in life. So, okay. So if you can, we'll give it a test run. If you can get yourself sort of in meditation mode now, uh, sometimes you want to change your position or move away from the screen. You don't have to be on the screen if you don't want to.